Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast. Today, we're light on news, but we got some love and thunder, a new Mission Impossible, and we get Gray Man. All this and everything else that happened this week in Geek.
Love ya. Get home safe, guys. Peace.
Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin. And if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast celebrating the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things geek-centric. Joining me this week is one of my fellow geeks, while the other frolics in California for Star Wars Celebration. Kevin Hudson, how are you, buddy? Are you feeling the FOMO? I'm feeling the FOMO right now.
Oh, yeah. Like, as if I didn't feel bad enough already because the last 2 weeks have just been crazy busy with my move that I've been doing. I mean, if you're talking about Gray Man, you might as well be describing me. I have never felt older in my life. And I need some Just for Men touch-up, just for the sides here. I've gone super gray in the last couple weeks. But yeah, even just... for Darcy and Nate to have flown out to California, and on my Twitter, yes. I've got people who I follow. It's the weirdest thing. I've got people who I follow for like baseball, and they'll be like, going to have a weekend in Anaheim. I'm going to catch some Jays games and, a little Star Wars celebration. I'm going, oh, man, you're making this a weekend I wish I could be at for sure.
I think it's going to be big this weekend, especially if the reveals are big. But I think the event, the fandom itself, the experience is going to be a very big event, as it should be. It's been over, it was delayed, I believe, 2 years, maybe even just a year of delays. But
no, they were originally going 2020 to this, so it's been years in the making. Oh wow, so it's actually been 2 years. Wow, that's crazy. So 2 years. And they're off. So, I have so much FOMO. We had such a good time there. And then the fact that it's in Anaheim and it's hop, skip, and a jump from Disneyland, a park that I've never been to. I'm super jealous. But we have some excellent content to look forward to with Darcy and Nate out there in terms of just podcast stuff, because we'll probably do some coverage next week. That'll probably be our This Week in Geek, to be honest with you, is This Week in Star Wars. Well, yeah, and I mean, I think if we learned anything years ago was the second time is always better. And so they both learned from when we went down and we weren't able to get into almost any of the panels and everything. And so that's why I know Darcy was like, I'm doing the VIP. I can shop and do whatever on the floor. That's fun. But if I'm going all this way and there's going to be all these shows, I want to be in the audience. I want to be at these panels. And so I know if I ever go to a show like that again, you spring the extra dough, you get the VIP pass, and you get to experience the shows that make it special,
Yeah, make it worthwhile. And, I think we were waiting to see what we were going to do in regards to Star Wars Celebration in 2020. And, the pandemic hit, obviously, and changed all of that. But I think if it had been a thing then, we probably would have done it again. And we would have done it where we all just got VIP passes. Because, yeah, that lottery system that Star Wars Celebration runs, I think it's entirely fair. But it's also like, it really hurts when you don't get it. But Nate had some luck this time. I think he's actually going to be in a majority of the good stages, so he'll be able to actually enjoy what's being shared, whether it's going to be shared generally. I really do hope, though, that Star Wars Celebration does share most of what they're going to show to the general audience. They've done streams on YouTube so that you can tune in, so hopefully they'll have something. But yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out from this weekend. It's going to be well, and if not, we've got our two insiders, so either way we'll be able to talk about lots of juicy details next week. Yeah, we can live. Sure. Yeah, we'll be able to live vicariously through them. Okay, well, let's get into the news, because we're light on news this week. I have two stories for us, Kev, and then I got some awesome trailers, because this was a really great trailer week. So let's get into the news.
It's all about the details.
All right, our first news story, Daredevil's Disney Plus series is in the works, with Matt Corman and Chris Ord set to write. This is exclusive news from Variety, from Joe Otterson. A new Daredevil series is moving forward at Disney Plus, with Variety having exclusively learned from sources that Matt Corman and Chris Ord are attached to write and executive produce. Rumors have persisted for some time that a Disney Plus series about the Man Without Fear was in the works, especially considering that two of the stars of the Netflix Daredevil series, Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, of course, have appeared in recent Marvel projects. It now appears, though, that the project is picking up steam with the hiring of Corman and Ord, although Marvel has yet to announce anything regarding the show formally. The reps for Corman and Ord declined to comment. Marvel Studio reps also did not comment. But have you heard of these two showrunners at all, Kev? Because in the article it pointed out they co-created a USA Network series, Covert Affairs, starring Piper Perabo. I don't know if I'm saying
Piper
that right.
Perabo,
Probably
yeah.
not. Yeah, Perabo and Christopher Gorham. And the show aired for 5 seasons on basic cable from 2010 to 2014. That's a long run for that show. I'm surprised I never heard of it. I haven't even looked it up. But any of the other works that are called out in this article, have you seen?
I mean, I know they co-produced an NBC show called The Enemy Within, which maybe rings a bell. But, you know, it's a little bit of something like the CW series Containment. That worries me a little bit.
That worries me.
USA Network is not known for their top-notch stuff for the most part. So
for sure.
It's definitely an interesting hiring in terms of the writers and showrunners here. But I think they've got just such a terrific actor in Charlie Cox to lead the way that I think they'll be able to do something with it. Fans have obviously wanted this for years. I think the bigger question is how much of the Netflix show can we expect to, you know, is it canon at all? Will they be referencing it at all? I'm very, very curious to see how they handle all of that going forward.
Yeah, a lot of people are a little worried too about the whole Disney Plus kind of taking Daredevil on, because if it's not going to feel like the same world, but now you're going to kind of like soup up Daredevil because now he's in the MCU. It might take away from what makes Daredevil really, really special. I am surprised that the original showrunners wouldn't have been somewhat involved at this stage with Matt Corman and Chris Ord. All power to them. If they can tell the story, I'm interested to see what they're going to be able to do. But, you know, fans have been clamoring for Daredevil ever since the Netflix series was canceled in 2018. And the article points out as well that this is going to be some time before we can actually get this series. Variety actually reported in 2018 that the deal with Netflix included a clause that prevented any characters from the Marvel Netflix shows from appearing in any non-Netflix project for 2 years after cancellation. So even at this point, I think we've now reached that 2 years, obviously.
Well, yeah, especially because we've seen the characters now in No Way Home and obviously the Hawkeye show. And I think fans can almost look to Hawkeye for being the sort of not as epic underdog superhero, the sort of more ground level. But, you know, I think that's sort of the tone we're going to get with this show. But I think you'll be severely disappointed if you're hoping it's going to be tonally the same thing as the Netflix version. I don't think it's going to be that dark. I don't think it's going to be gritty. We've never seen anything in the MCU take on that sort of personality, and so maybe this is that first. Maybe this is that first show, but I wouldn't hold my breath to see that. It would be awesome because of how great that show was. It was really, aside from one season of Jessica Jones and a couple episodes. Luke Cage was okay, but that first season of Jessica Jones was amazing. But no, the Netflix Daredevil really was the peak of that, especially with the introduction of Barenthal's Punisher and everything like that.
For sure, I would say that the Netflix series it defined Daredevil very much like how Batman or even The Dark Knight defined Batman. I'm definitely I'm intrigued. Because I think you called it out, Hawkeye is such a great show to consider. It was kind of the underdog. It really snuck in there and won my heart towards the end of the year last year. and with its holiday theme being so relevant. So, this could be some sort of like surprise and delight. It'll be interesting to see if Echo, we know that series is filming right now in Atlanta, how maybe that might play into introducing Charlie Cox's Daredevil in the MCU a little bit more as Daredevil, because we've only seen him as Matt Murdock. We haven't seen him as Daredevil in the MCU yet. So maybe that's where that happens, and they branch off. Echo's going to have to involve D'Onofrio, Wilson Fisk in some capacity, right? So D'Onofrio will definitely have a presence in that.
Are you sure? Didn't we hear him get shot though, Justin? Come on.
It's up in the air. It's definitely up in the air. He could be dead, but most likely he's not.
I think
don't
we'll
bring
see
someone
him
back
again.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's get into our next news story. And I picked this news story because Kev, you're an SNL fan, and I'm not necessarily I wouldn't say diehard SNL fan. Past weekend, Pete Davidson, Kate McKinnon say goodbye to SNL. This comes from Leslie Goldberg over at The Hollywood Reporter. Saturday Night Live's season 47 finale provided opportunities for departing cast members Pete Davidson, Kate McKinnon, Aidy Bryant, and Kyle Mooney to make their final impressions as show regulars, and they did so in true SNL fashion and played up some classics. In the cold open, McKinnon reprised her fan favorite character, Miss Rafferty, who relived another alien encounter, and at the end of the segment, McKinnon headed into the UFO to leave Earth behind for good, and with her hand on her heart, McKinnon said, "Well, Earth, I love you. Thanks for letting me stay a while." Live from New York, it's Saturday night. Sorry, I wanted to keep that quote so I could say that on the podcast. Davidson returned to the Weekend Update desk, and that helped establish his voice over the past 8 seasons. And during his farewell, he started out with a reference to his relationship with Kim Kardashian and her ex Kanye, by acknowledging that really at the end of the day, millions of people only watch to see if Pete Davidson will bring up Kanye. He also made a crack about Will Smith from this past year's Oscars and praised producer Lorne Michaels for being just a great dude. Bryant appeared as well on the Weekend Update as her trend forecaster opposite Bowen Yang. Among the trends that she deemed in were 10 nice years and my best guy kissing me, leading Yang and Michael Che to both kiss her on the cheek. In the night's finale sketch, Mooney, McKinnon, and Bryant all played aging hippies, and the characters ended by singing Joni Mitchell's wistful 1966 tune, The Circle Game. So rumors of this were floating around actually for quite some time. And given the longevity that these 10-year characters have on SNL, Kev, like I know you would tune in probably weekly to watch the show if I'm not mistaken, right? And do you think that they're going to be missed? Because a lot of people are saying it's kind of time because there's a larger cast and they can move on and do the next things that they want to do.
I mean, it's really interesting because so many cast members over the last 3 or 4 years have sort of stepped away. I'd say the biggest to come out of that group so far is Jason Sudeikis, obviously, going on to have his success with Ted Lasso. I really liked Beck Bennett. He was probably my favorite regular for a few years there. And then I think, of the 4 cast members to leave, McKinnon has the biggest role on the show and plays some of the more iconic characters. Her portrayal of Rudy Giuliani as a Nosferatu-style vampire is incredible. So that will certainly be missed. It's interesting. I mean, Kenan Thompson's clearly just never going to leave. I think Weekend Update is they have their strongest cast that they've had in a long time with Michael Che and Colin Jost. And Pete Davidson is so funny. I don't know how much I'll miss him from the show just because he really only did appear in a sketch every couple weeks, and then every once in a while he'd come on Weekend Update. And I mean, it was interesting because he would just be himself. He wasn't playing a character like most people are. He was just kind of like, here's who I am. This is what's going on in my life and what I think about it right now. So that honesty was certainly refreshing. But yeah, it is certainly the biggest cast they've ever had that I've ever seen them have. And so it was interesting to see who was not getting enough screen time to really make a difference. And so maybe, with some bigger more recognized names stepping out, it lets the new cast members sort of shine going forward. And so that's always a good thing if we can get new voices on the show to keep it as fresh as possible.
Yeah, and that's the thing about SNL. It is very much a cycle. Like, people come there and build their careers and build their practice in SNL. It's a community of comedians that are obviously having fun and doing what it is. It's kept that sort of sketch comedy motif alive over many years. Again, I think Kate McKinnon is obviously, I'm seeing her more in movies and she's doing more, so it makes sense for her to give it a go and say goodbye. Pete Davidson is obviously, as you said, Kevin, he's just himself, right? That's kind of it. And it's interesting how SNL kind of a diverse sort of sense of different kind of comedic actors, where a Pete Davidson could work because he's very millennial and you just interject him in these skits and he is just who he is. But then you also have people that are really embrace doing impressions and characterizations and so on and so forth. So he's definitely the odd one. He's obviously stepping and doing more in movies, or maybe he's right. Maybe it's just the fact that he's with Kim Kardashian that his name is just sprayed everywhere. Right? Not necessarily familiar with the other two as actors, but I think the one thing that you were pointing out that was really great is that this just needs to be a cycle. This, it's the next step for these actors. It's the next step for the next generation that still are there for them to kind of have their voice and their time. So I think it's a smart idea.
Yeah, I mean, you can only do so much with that before, you take a chance and you go off on your own. And I think the show is in good hands. I mean, you still got showrunner, like I said, Colin Jost in there, but you've got Mikey Day, Chloe Fineman, Heidi Gardner is really making a name for herself. Alex Moffat's always really, really solid. Chris Redd is terrific. Cecily Strong is kind of now outside of Kenan Thompson, sort of that really big anchor name that's been there for years and did a lot in terms of show running and everything like that. But then they've also got the best Trump impersonator on the planet in James Austin Johnson, who made his debut this season. And not only does he do just the best Trump you'll ever see, but any character he's played, he's really, really good at it. So I'm excited to see if he sort of gets to branch out a bit more. Oh, you got to check out, if you haven't seen his Trump yet, it is just the most mind-boggling thing ever.
I'll have to check that out later. Well, that's it. 2 news stories, very light. I really just want to talk about these trailers. So, Kev, why don't you cue up that banjo? Because
it's trailer time.
All right, it has been a week full of trailers, some much anticipated trailers that we've been looking forward to. And this first one I am very excited to talk about. This is for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, directed by Christopher McQuarrie, starring Tom Cruise, Haley Atwell, Rebecca Ferguson, Vanessa Kirby, Pom Klementif, Simon Pegg, Issa Morales, Vig Rhames, and Henry Czerny. This is the 7th entry in the long-running Mission Impossible series, and it is expected to release July 14th. Get this, 2023. So,
still over another year. And I find it funny that we're going back and forth over what names maybe to include in terms of the cast list, when this movie has one of the most ridiculous names of all time. It's got a double colon in there.
That's funny. I think that the name is. I was saying to Nate, I think it was in another This Week in Geek episode, that it feels very Bond-esque. Like, it's really pushing like that sort of spy motif. I love that the entire trailer is void of any sort of sound effects. It's literally just music, and it actually really does feel like they're going to be revisiting the first one, the very first movie that kind of set it up. Like, even the way Ethan Hunt looks, like Tom Cruise's character, he looks very similar to the way he looks in the first one. And even the fact that Henry Czerny is featured in this trailer, he was also in the first movie, and he plays a pivotal role. So, again, everything feels very much like they're going to be taking it back. I definitely, after watching this trailer, and I know a lot of people have, they've been going back and rewatching them all, and I'm like, yeah, I want to go back.
I am 100% in going and doing a full rewatch because it's crazy to think it's been almost 30 years since the first movie. Like that is absolute insanity. And so the fact that Tom's still doing this, and not just at a similar level, he's pushed himself further and further
elevated it,
every single year.
For sure.
But the story does sort of, I don't know if it blends a little bit. All the movies sort of blend together into I sort of just have one memory of little moments, but I couldn't tell you what movie they're from. I think you can sort of differentiate. Obviously, I think the first three is they're very three separate different movies. But ever since Ghost Protocol, with the same team sort of in place, it all really blends together. So I am looking forward to going and getting those nuances of the story and those little intricate details, which I think build over the first 6 installments here, just to sort of remember where this group of spies has come from and how they got here.
Yeah, it's it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and if there's anything that we've come to learn about Tom Cruise is that this man knows how to sell a movie.
And he loves to run.
He loves to run, of course. We all know that. But I don't know, we're going to go see at the time of recording this tomorrow, which would be Thursday, we're going to go see Top Gun, which stars Tom Cruise. And what that movie is being touted about doing for the in-theater experience alone, that Tom Cruise has come such a long way, and he's done a range of movies and proven that he is an outstanding actor that can do anything. But now he's getting into just the experience. The in-theater experience is so important to him, and he's really selling that about himself. It's almost like he's finding another avenue of filmmaking to get into so that maybe he doesn't need to act as much, and maybe his knees can take a bit of a rest from all the running.
Well, there you go. Well, and I think I know how he takes that rest, and that's by going to every single movie that he possibly can. I'm going to sneak in a third news story here that we could definitely talk about as it's very relevant. Brendan Klein from Screen Rant writes that Tom Cruise apparently sneaks into theaters to see every movie that comes out. He'll wear a hat, he'll wear a little disguise, and he just is the biggest fan in the world of that theater going experience. And so, like you were saying with movies like Top Gun, like the Mission Impossible films always are, he is always trying to elevate that experience, not to pad his wallet, because he could never get paid again and, be set for 1,000 more years of him acting and doing these movies. Like he looks like he's somehow like he's immortal. But no, I think he's just a super fan of the movies and wants to give that experience to fans, and that's awesome, Yeah. So many people probably don't even know what movies are coming out next month, let alone going to see every single one just to get that experience and watch movies with people in theaters. So I think that's really awesome.
Well, that's the best research you could really do at the same time, right? Is go to these movies and watch how people react to things, and also say, oh wow, that was a really great moment. Do you know what I mean? Or oh, I really liked what this filmmaker did. Maybe we can try and make a movie with him, right? Like if you imagine you got Christopher Nolan and Tom Cruise together. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but who knows what sort of magic could be made in some capacity through a movie like that. But regardless, this was a trailer that people were clamoring for. It actually leaked on the internet and in high definition, everything. I didn't repost it, but I did have it spoiled for me, so I did watch it before it released this past Monday. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm very excited for what they seem to be hinting at, a sort of taking it way back to the first movie, Brian De Palma's movie, which rightfully so is so different, because you called it out, Kevin. The first 3 movies are so different from one another. Each filmmaker that took that on approached it differently. You have Brian De Palma, who did the first one, John Woo, who did the second one, and J.J. Abrams, who did the third one, who really did kick the franchise off. That's their starting point for 4, 5, and 6 was number 3. So it is integral. It's kind of the first one of the news stories that they told. Whereas, here now we're seeing more of a robust story to Ethan Hunt that is going to be rewarding, and it's going to be very much tied to what we've already seen. They're going to be able to canonize the other two in small ways to make it still relevant and that it still hits. Because I don't know, they're, in my mind, even though they're done by same filmmakers, it's the same Ethan Hunt, right? So he is the constant in all of them.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's crazy that this was one of the movies that, as the pandemic started, we were getting stories out of Tom Cruise trying to keep the cast and crew safe so that everyone could keep working. And now it's still over another year until it comes out. I remember when we got our first glimpses of the big stunt from this one where he rides the motorcycle off of the big wood ramp. And so to finally see that in the trailer, and they've CGI'd out the ramp and replaced it with just a rocky cliff face, whatever it is. I mean, it's like, come on, let's get here, and then I don't think we'll get if they do not call this next movie Mission Impossible, what do we got here? I want Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 2, The Final Mission. Like, just add a third colon in there. Keep it going. But that won't come out for another 3 or 4 years at this rate. And Tom will be up and is filming in space by then, so...
Well, who knows? Yeah, that's also very true. He has that movie that's supposed to come out. So, and again, we talked about in that when we referenced that news story in the past, that makes sense for Tom Cruise to want to be invested in a project like that. It's going to change in theater experience of seeing space in that way. It's going to be IMAX. It's going to be stunning. It's going to be interesting to see. But yes, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1. July 14th, 2023. I am very excited for this one. But, of the amazing trailers, this was only one of the 3. Let's get into the second one here. And so our next trailer is for Netflix's The Gray Man, directed by the Russo brothers, starring Ryan Gosling, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas, Billy Bob Thornton, Jessica Henwick. When the CIA's most skilled operative, whose true identity is known to none, accidentally uncovers dark agency secrets, a psychopath former colleague puts a bounty on his head, setting off a global manhunt by international assassins. People have been looking forward to this one just because of the cast, and I don't think this trailer disappoints. I'm very intrigued to see what this is all about. It has two actors that I don't think they've played opposite each other, Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans, and they've both had their own paths of stardom, and it's interesting to see them showing up here as sort of a face-off situation. But Kev, what did you think of this trailer?
You look at that synopsis and, just sort of describing it. Oh, another CIA assassin movie. It just sounds super generic, but this trailer just makes it look like it's so much more elevated than that. It looks like a high quality, now you're moving into your Bourne Identity sort of levels of CIA thrillers where the action's terrific, the acting is amazing. I mean, just getting to see Chris Evans be a bad guy, at least from this trailer, that's what it looks like. That's so fun considering he's just, the ultimate good guy and has been for the last 10 years. To see him play something opposite to that is such an exciting prospect.
Well, yeah, because, Knives Out was definitely a hint at him being more of a villain after being Captain America. And now here it looks like he is definitely more of a villain. Yeah, the action looks great. And I am interested in seeing Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans face off. But I got to say, I am super stoked about Ana de Armas being in this movie, especially after how stunning she was in No Time to Die for the short amount of time that we got her in that movie.
She should be arrested. She's an absolute scene stealer.
Absolutely, for sure. And the way she's really committing to actually doing her own stunts and learning, and she's shared a lot of that online. Her sort of how she's gone through the process of becoming more action oriented in her performances, and she acts so well after Knives Out. You had Knives Out where you really got to see her acting chops, and then you have No Time to Die where she then takes that acting chops and then infuses this action oriented. She's perfect, man. She's gonna kill it in this movie. I hope she's front and center.
Well, plus, I mean, you have the Russo brothers coming back to what looks very much like almost their roots for mainstream filmmaking in terms of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and that more grounded, a little bit more grounded compared to how big their Marvel films got over the next few years. I was going to say, man, it's their first movie since Endgame, although apparently they directed a Tom Holland flick.
Cherry.
cherry that did not get reviewed well. I'd never even heard of it. So I'm just going to still pretend that it's their first movie since Endgame, and I'm very excited just to see them, back behind the lens, back behind the camera.
Yeah. I'm excited for that. Also, just rounding out the cast here, we got Billy Bob Thornton. That's a surprise and delight. I'm very interested to see him what he's gonna play. He seems like he's gonna play the sort of I'm gonna use a reference here that if you've seen the Batman, you'll get it. The James Gordon, very much the person that I don't know if he's the enemy. We'll find out. But another surprise here was Jessica Henwick, who she's coming in. She was great. She was the best part of Matrix 4. What was that one called? Matrix.
Matrix, please don't make any more. No, Resurrections.
Yeah, she was the best part of Matrix Resurrection, and I'm excited to see how she's going to round it. I think she seems like she could play a villain in this one. Maybe she goes up against Ana de Armas.
In a movie like this, 2 or 3 people are going to switch sides, and it'll all be the big whodunit, who's responsible sort of. That's the CIA trope to a T, and so it'll be interesting to see who's actually bad and who's actually good.
And good on Netflix for investing in this. God knows they're taking money out of animation, but if they're producing these kind of movies, then I don't know. We'll
because this was supposed to be a big year for them, right? When we looked at that Sizzler reel at the beginning of the year, we thought, wow, there's some solid looking movies in there, and I think they've been really hit or miss with that. But this might be their first, true blue certified, crowd pleasing, just critically reviewed, well hit. I'd be really happy for them to see
hoping.
that.
Yeah. I'm hoping for it. So we don't have to wait long actually to see this one. It's hitting Netflix July 22nd, 2022, but there is an in-theater release, if I'm not mistaken, that is going to be happening July 15th. It's sort of a short stint, which I think is good. You're hitting the middle of July. It's a summer movie. I think people will check this out 100%.
Yeah, and I mean, if it does well and word of mouth gets out in that first week, keep it around and give people the option, because there are still fans out there, myself or a guy very much like myself,
is going to need to see this movie.
Yeah, so if there are some people who do just genuinely like to see things in theaters, and so why not have both options? Yeah. I think that's a great idea.
Hopefully, the week that they have this in theaters, Tom Cruise won't be too busy, so he'll be able to actually check it out. Okay, let's move into our last trailer. This one is for Marvel Studios' Thor: Love and Thunder, directed by Taika Waititi, starring Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, Tessa Thompson, Taika Waititi, Christian Bale, Russell Crowe, and the entire cast of Guardians. By the looks of it, it looks like everyone's there. The synopsis: Thor enlists the help of Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster to fight Gorr the God Butcher, who intends to make the gods extinct. We got our first look at Gorr the God Butcher. Hallelujah. This trailer slaps, man. And I remember when we were reacting to the teaser trailer, I was saying the teaser trailer is all about Thor. This is 100% about the Love and Thunder. I'm very excited to see what this movie's about. What about yourself, Kev? What did you think of this trailer?
It looks awesome. I mean, I'm not a comic guy, so I still don't know how I feel about Gorr not looking like his comic counterpoint. I can leave that to people who would know more about the comics, perhaps. But that is, I mean, Christian Bale still looks like he's going to bring just some poetic menace to this character. It really does look almost. It's right out of the Coen brothers Macbeth, sort of his scenes, just the way they're filmed in almost black and white and everything like that. I was getting crazy vibes.
So my theory around that is that because he is the God killer and gods probably insinuate life and color, that he is very much in this sort of black and white world. Some of the visuals look overly Mad Max Fury Road. It's overly colorful, and then you have these scenes juxtaposed with those color with Gorr in black and white, and he is going to be the bringer of death and darkness, and I think that it's going to have sort of an effect on how we maybe perceive the world or how the world gets changed. But some amazing shots of him with this sword in a planet. like, and just the explosion in and around him, like just that little moment in that teaser. I enjoy his look. I think that the look for Gorr the God Butcher works. I'm glad that they didn't go CGI and take away from his face. I know that CGI has gotten a lot better, but you know, when you bring someone like Christian Bale into a movie who can act, I think the best thing is to let him act and kind of lean into.
I keep hearing that, but did that affect Josh Brolin at all? Did that affect Josh Brolin's performance as Thanos at all? You know, and they were able to combine sort of a comic look with his own mannerisms. You know, I don't think it impacts any emotional or comedic resonance that Taika Waititi can bring to Korg, and he's basically completely CGI there. I just wonder if you couldn't he is basically just bald and, you know, white painted skin. That's all it really is, you know. So, but again, I think the second this movie starts and his performance is on the screen, I won't care what he looks like, just that he's there and sounds like one of the most badass villains we've ever had in a Marvel movie, you know. Just walking around with that sword of death saying all gods must die. It sounds pretty badass if you ask me.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Taika Waititi actually went on the record of saying that he's blessed to have probably the best villain in the MCU in his movie. So I think that says a lot about the performance that we are going to get from Christian Bale. But this movie looks like it's going to have a lot of vibrancy, a lot of fun, especially with the way that last little stinger on the teaser, you know, some naked Hemsworth for everyone to bask in. It's the sense of humor you would expect from Taika Waititi, as just that sort of ending there to remind you that it is a Taika Waititi movie. And
also that like Chris Hemsworth can piss right off because like that body must be CGI. That doesn't even look physically possible. My God. Unbelievable. He went, from what? From dad bod to god bod, indeed. Thor's always been my guy. But I think this might be our swan song for him as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, a lot of people have been saying that.
I know.
It does look like as well too. We have Jane Foster, who's it seems like she's very comfortable being Mighty Thor, and Tessa Thompson, who, you know, King of Valkyrie. It's going to be interesting to see if this is the swan song for Thor. You know, I think that it'll be interesting to see how they rotate in King Valkyrie and you know, Jane Foster, Mighty Thor, to kind of maybe pseudo replace him. But I don't know. Are they really going to do that? Like, does it feel like that? I wasn't getting those vibes. I guess the biggest thing that people were calling out is Korg recanting the story is almost in sort of a past tense.
Oh, that's right? Almost like it's almost very 300, if you will. Right? Talking about the bravery, and you find out that at the end he's telling it after they've died. Interesting. I don't know. I know the Geekcentric Twitter account shared a really cool picture, and it was our old heroes and our new heroes, and we see how everyone is, you know, sort of stepping back from the original Avenger days into this new group of heroes. I mean, we're in good hands if we are going to lose another one here, but I'd hate to see it personally.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know, like there's also been talks that he would be coming back, like he's up for coming back. So it's like at this point it's really up to Hemsworth, right? If he wants to go, they could keep Thor around and he's kind of more background, and when he comes in it's a big deal, rather than, you know, a movie for, you know, every 2 years that he's committed to having to do. It really does depend on what his goals are with the character, because at this point he's pretty much defined it, and based on what we've seen already, someone like Mark Ruffalo is down to do these movies, but he's obviously not taking massive front stage. You know, She-Hulk will obviously have him a little bit more centered, but he's been more ancillary in background, right? So
and even more so, Thor is the perfect character that he doesn't have to be centralized on Earth, so we can go off, do some Asgardian stuff, or I guess not with Asgard itself, but he can be that space Viking, do some stuff off Earth, and then come back when we need him the most. So
I wonder if too it's going to be interesting if Jane Foster as Mighty Thor is what really convinces Thor to lay down his hammer and retire. Do you know what I mean? If it's like, oh, the world's fine. Do you know what I mean? They have Mighty Thor. You know, he feels kind of at peace with that.
See, you keep making it sound like it's going to be a choice. I don't know if Gorr's going to let it even be a choice, man. And what better way to set up, this villain being that awful and that bad and that scary and that intimidating than to take down one of our favorites, one of the mightiest heroes we've known.
Only time will tell, because that one's hitting theaters July 8th, 2022. So look out for some coverage on that. That's for sure. Well, that is it for our trailers. But before we wrap up this week in geek, I thought we could close things out with a little whatcha. So Kev, what you been up to? What you been listening to? Is there anything that they should be watching or playing, reading?
Well, it's interesting that we talked earlier in the show about Saturday Night Live, because I've been catching up and diving into a different sketch comedy show altogether. Amazon Prime recently reintroduced the world to the Kids in the Hall. And so it's kind of twofold in that I watched both the documentary movie about sort of their rise to fame and how that all came together, as well as the 8-episode reboot of the Kids in the Hall show. And I mean, it was super nostalgic. I mean, as soon as that guitar riff hits, I think every Canadian, especially from our generation and around there, bow, wow, 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 bow, 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 wow, wow, That really brought back, but I don't know if I was too young or it's just not my kind of humor, but I never got all that into the Kids in the Hall. They were a bit, they were a bit too much for me. They were maybe, I just can't put my finger on quite what it was that I never connected with.
Well, I think I would attribute it to, and you're an SNL fan, and I think the cleverness that SNL has is completely lacking in Kids in the Hall, because they're very absurd sometimes. They're very, like, there's probably moments of craftiness, but I think that they are more of, like, again, the Kids in the Hall. That's why they're kind of called that. They're that sort of slapsticky, goofy. They really lean into their sort of characteristic portrayals. Very Monty Python, if you will, too. I think that's also kind of like that. But even Monty Python was kind of that balance of both clever and just dry British humor and slapsticky.
Yeah, the kids are loud, they're brash, they're absurdist comedy is a great way to put it. But I mean, going to it's called The Kids in the Hall Comedy Punks. It's a great little 2-part documentary series. It was fascinating as hell. It was so cool to see how Lorne Michaels was responsible for sort of helping them get their name out there and get their first big break on HBO. And just listening to all the famous comedians that came on to say how important the Kids in the Hall were to them in the end of the 80s, early 90s. Fred Armisen, Jay Baruchel, Janine Garofalo, Mae Martin, and the list goes on and on of these, Eddie Izzard, just these comedians who absolutely revere these guys as comedic geniuses. And so I kind of look at like a Gilbert Gottfried and his sort of, take on certain jokes like The Aristocrats, and that it always sort of buzzed over my head, and it's taken me even a long time into Norm Macdonald. I never understood where his humor was, but it's only recently that I've gone back and started to really appreciate it. So I was kind of hoping that would happen for me here, and it just didn't quite. But I will say, if you were a fan of the show in the late 80s, early 90s, I think people will absolutely love this. It'll be amazing for them to get their kids back in the hall. And I mean, I know the show did a lot, especially for gay comedic performances. Scott Thompson was a huge role model in the community, and so it was fascinating watching the story. I appreciated that much, and how they sort of got their fame and worked their asses off, blood, sweat, and tears to earn their shot and make the most of it. So no, definitely a cool story worth checking out. And again, if you're a fan of the original, this is another 8 episodes that you're absolutely going to love.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. For myself, honestly, I've been pretty busy with life as it is, and work and so on and so forth, but I did get a chance to actually go to a screening recently to see the Bob's Burgers movie, which is hitting theaters this weekend, which is hitting theaters May 27th. And I actually posted just a small solo review, kind of talking about it. It was really good. I actually really enjoyed it, but I think it's for Bob's Burgers fans. Like, I don't know if you're not a fan of Bob's Burgers, then you're not going to enjoy this movie. This
isn't going to convert anybody, eh?
Version. Exactly. No, it won't convert anyone. But the other thing too is that if you don't know anything about Bob's Burgers, this movie might be a bit of a surprise and delight. But if you're already someone who's like, oh yeah, I'm not really crazy about that show, then you're not going to go see a movie for it. The movie's long. The movie's definitely, it's longer than it needs to be, but you're there to see the characters and the story and the way that the movie is enhanced for the big screen. In the review, I talk about the cinematic treatment. Go listen to that. It's up right now. You can take a listen and see what I'm talking about. But the idea of how they made Bob's Burgers fit into the big screen, it's great. It didn't lose any of itself. It was amped up and it was amplified.
Well, and I know you just posted it both on the anywhere you can listen to podcasts and on the YouTube. So I'm looking forward to checking out your review. We've never done a solo review before, so I'm excited for that. Yeah. Plus, I'm excited to see if you sway me to check it out just based on your thoughts on it. I'm going to go give that a listen and see if you convince me.
Well, no, but I honestly think though that you again, I know that you don't necessarily are a fan of that sort of style of comedy or what Bob's Burgers does, right? I talk about that. I think that there's different levels, and where Bob's Burgers sits is kind of in that weird, quirky, obscure comedy, which is so refreshing from everything else that we get usually from these mature animated shows, which most of the time is overtly tries to be offensive and in your face and brash, and there's another layer to what Bob's Burgers does. So it's a good time. It's definitely worth checking out, and it actually feels like a summer movie. It adopts that tradition of being a summer adventure movie. It could have been in the fall too, but it's beginning of summer, end of summer this movie would have hit. But yeah, it was a good time. Definitely go check out that review. It's live now. But that is it for This Week in Geek. Thank you for tuning in wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and please leave us a glowing review. We'd love to know your thoughts, and we always appreciate the love. You can also reach out to us and ask us any questions you have about any of the news or trailers shared today or anything of any sorts that we cover. To do so, well, you can reach out to us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or if that's not enough love and thunder for you, well, then you can hit us up on Twitter at GeekcentricYT or on Instagram at WeAreGeekcentric. Keep in mind, we also have a ton of other episodes covering a variety of other content, such as our spoiler-free review for Stranger Things 4, Volume 1, where we get back into the Upside Down and talk about the fantastic new season ahead of its release this Friday, May 27th. So if you are wanting to hear our thoughts, we are so spoiler-free on that. Should be good to go and set you up for season 4.
This is a crazy weekend for people, man. There is a lot of stuff, coming your way. You could never claim to be bored, man. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. It is a great time to be enjoying content. Also, we have our spoiler-free and spoiler-filled reviews for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Plus, yeah, we'll keep touting about this one, our interview with Michael Waldron and director Sam Raimi, because that was a pretty surreal experience. So it's also available on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/geekcentric. Also, we have a ton of new content on the way. Kevin, you mentioned it. This weekend's nuts. Obi-Wan Kenobi drops 2 episodes on Friday. So we'll be starting a watch club, our week-to-week breakdown of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's going to be a good time. The first 2 episodes are going to be hosted by me, which will be very different from anything that you might have experienced with any of our other watch clubs, because it's not going to be the same. I'm going to kick things off for the first 2 episodes, and Nate's going to be jumping in for the rest of the watch club for that. And then also later in almost 10 days after this, I think we're going to be getting Ms. Marvel as well on June 8th. So another watch club starting up. We may do another watch club for the boys. We really got to look at that and figure out how that's going to work. So, but until then, Kev, thanks for joining me for This Week in Geek. And as we say,
get home safe, guys.
Peace.